Our next speaker is Kylie Beckhouse. Kylie is Director of Family Law at Legal Aid New South Wales, and I think this makes her in charge of the biggest family law practice in the country. And in this, she's also responsible for Legal Aid's Family Dispute Resolution Service. Kylie has specialised in family law for 23 years and is both an accredited specialist in family law, and she's also an independent children's lawyer and a very renowned one. Kylie Beckhouse.
Thanks, Damien. I suppose I actually just wanted to acknowledge the Chief Justice from the outset, because you've shown extraordinary leadership to us as the family law profession, and I know a lot will be said over probably the next 6 months about that, and you've particularly shown a lot of leadership to women in law, for which we're grateful. But you managed to put a positive spin and be so terribly diplomatic, and that was beautifully demonstrated tonight. So well done. Gerard was much better at sort of telling it the way it was, but I wanted to sort of endorse a lot of the views that had been said. And I think, you know, it was really wonderful to hear the welcome to country that Rodney gave tonight when he spoke about his experience in the family law system. Because he encapsulated some of the tensions and difficulties of making really difficult decisions about families. Of course, he was a litigant who had insight and was introspective about his experience, and sadly in our system we don't get a lot of that by the time people end up in the court. And what we know from recent studies, there was the Australian Institute of Family Studies did a survey of litigants, I think in 2015, and they looked at the cohort of people in the court system, and I think the figures were that about 65% had at least more than one of the following things: domestic violence, child abuse, mental health, drug and alcohol. That is the cohort who use the family court system. So it brings me to consider who it is who will be suitable for a tribunal type of justice. And it also leads me to be a little bit concerned when we talk about access to justice, is what we are saying is that group of self-represented litigants who need forensic determination sometimes about whether there has been abuse, whether there has been domestic violence, whether in fact we're serving up to them a process that is not actually the transparent, open, procedurally fair process that people in Australia who can afford to get it receive. So I'll leave that for discussion, but it is just a sort of concern of mine. I'm pretty excited though about the reference to the Australian Law Reform Commission. I think that just the Family Law Act alone is well overdue for a rethink. It's been 41 years. I was fortunate to be part of the Family Law Council for the last 5 years, and there were 2 references that we had over that period of time that really brought the need for reform of at least Part 7 of the Family Law Act into our stark attention. One reference was on parentage. It arose from a lot of issues around surrogacy practice, but the reference was a little bit broader than that. And certainly it's fair to say that for children who come from, I suppose, non-traditional family structures, there is a different application of the law to them because of the definition of parenthood, for example. And that's not right. And there are aspects of the Family Law Act that really need to be considered to bring it into the present day. Certainly, the reform, the delays that we are currently experiencing, I think, have a big connection to the complexity of the current Part 7 particularly, and I would argue that there's probably good cause to actually think about removing those aspects of the Family Law Act relating to children and consider whether children in Australia should be worthy of their own act. because what we learnt from the parentage reference is that there are, and in fact what we know from the intersection of child protection and domestic violence and other aspects of the law, that there might need to be a national piece of legislation that talks about children more generally. So I think that they're my just general comments, Damien, and I'm sure you'll throw some curly questions at us further.
Thank you. Thanks, Kylie.